Speaking of Dylan Ray, the hit the other night against Austin Matthews, and then the one against Petrie against Barrie on Saturday night in Montreal. Where are you at as far as any kind of response to that? I know you were a yapper and you like to chirp at guys. As far as the Maple Leafs, their intensity, the whole big picture for the Maple Leafs, where are you at with them?
The thing that bugged me, was not that somebody didn't go over and fight them or punch them in the nose or anything, but you would think that there'd be a energy response. Like, I just didn't see it.
Like at least swear at the guy.
Yeah, like when Barrie got thumped in Montreal, that was in the first period. They were, I think, what did they get outshot? 19-4 or something or other?
19-5, I think.
Yeah, like somebody run around or somebody be angry or something, or I mean, because they're not going to all of a sudden start fighting guys. I mean, those days are long gone. Nobody does that anymore. But they just, like, Matthews skated by him. There's not for him to do anything, but I kind of agree with Babcock in a sense. Like, who's going to do anything? They're not built like that. But there's got to be an energy response. Otherwise, teams aren't the least bit worried, I would think, about getting into a physical back and forth. Like, why would they worry about that?
If there was, on those Batman cartoons and those bubbles on cartoons of somebody speaking,
yeah.
I felt like when Austin Matthews did that drive-by, I felt you could have seen like a bubble of him going, "Hey, knock it off, buddy," or something like that.
Yeah.
Because he was flying, like Matthews was at full stride and kind of just went by him. And Petrie actually braced. Like, I thought Petrie thought something was coming because he looked like he was going to brace for it. And Matthews went kind of around him. And to me, if you had a little thought bubble there, it was like, hey, knock it off, buddy. Don't do that or something. Instead of just give him a little, or stop back on him at least. Like, just face to face.
They've got to. They've built, or they've made their bed with how they are, right? Like, this is how they're built. This is, they believe in puck possession and speed and skill and all the things that we hear all the time. So they're going to have to be better at that, because when they end up in a spot like we're talking about, they don't have a response for it. Like, that's not how they're built. Like, at times it seems to me like they're, and I've said this before, that, Babcock's talking about a team that he doesn't have. We got to be heavy and roll around the defense or the offensive zone, and you're like, that's just not what they are. I mean, They haven't played very well, and they're missing some guys, and it will get better. I mean, I don't anticipate Tyson Barrie's going to go the rest of the year without a point, but he's at 10 games right now, and so he's got more. Riley's got more. I'm looking at I'm just starting my prep for tomorrow, and I laughed. I'm writing down the stats for the team, and there's Marner. He's at the top, and you're like, man, but he hasn't played very well by his standards.
He's still on pace for 94 points. I actually did the math yesterday.
A lot of power play points, but still a point is a point. And I think
he'll be better. And you're like, so there's lots of things not to panic about, but there's some things that are, at the very least, you got to say they're troubling. Like that they've had times where they've looked half decent by what we think they should be, but there's been a lot of times where it's not been what they've envisioned. That's for sure.
It's not competitive, and I think that's the most alarming. It's just, we know you're not going to fight. We know you're not going to maybe hit, but you have to be competitive.
Look alive. I mean, I think that's what you just said, Ray. Have a lively reaction. Again, no one's saying fight, but at least look like you witnessed the hit. Like, these guys are all like, oh, I didn't see anything. Like, it's almost like if you asked Matthews during the intermission, he'd say, oh, I was looking the other way. I didn't even know. Like, they don't even want to acknowledge any of that. They don't want to be alive. And this is on the GM. It's not on the coach. It's on the players first. Let's be honest. It's on the players. But Dubas, his philosophy is cut and dry. And it reminds me of Alex Anthopoulos when he first got here. And Anthopoulos had a philosophy, and he was heavily analytically driven.
Until, he changed? When he got Josh Donaldson, and he knew the impact that he had in the room, and how much that impacted all of the players.
It took a while, though. I remember he was on this show, and he said, I woke up to it. I realized intangibles are important. A clubhouse chemistry is important. Liveliness in the dugout.
Right.
There's value to it. You can't quantify it. You can't find it on a graph, but it matters. And at this point, I'm not sure Dubas believes it matters, based on the way he's built this team. And at some point, it's going to show up, and he's going to have to figure that out.
Well, there's lots of examples of just that in different forms. But you're right. It's like there can be a baseline belief of whatever you think it is, but there's always has to be balance.